Easter dinner at my parents' house in Connecticut. 27 relatives around the table. Ham. Scalloped potatoes. The good china. My brother-in-law Tom was talking about his promotion at IBM. Regional director now. Managing 40 people. It's a real responsibility. Everyone congratulated him. Clinked glasses. Praised his corporate success. Then my aunt asked, "And Alex, what are you doing these days?" "Still running Vertex AI," I said. Mom laughed. That particular laugh. The one that said she didn't take me seriously. "Your little online thing," she said, reaching for more wine. "When are you getting a real career, sweetheart?" My sister Emily nodded. "Seriously, Alex. You're 32. Most people have established careers by now." "I have a career." "Playing with computers isn't a career," Dad said. "It's a hobby that occasionally pays." Uncle Richard joined in. "Have you thought about applying to real companies? Microsoft is always hiring." I could put in a word. "I'm good where I am." "You're stubborn," Mom said. "That's your problem. Too proud to admit when something isn't working." I took a sip of water. "Vertex is working fine." "Then why are you still living in that tiny apartment?" Emily asked. "If your business was successful, you'd be able to afford something nicer." I lived in a studio in San Francisco. 1,200 square feet. $4,800 a month. I could afford much nicer. I chose not to explain that. "I like my apartment," I said simply. The conversation moved on. Nobody asked follow-up questions. Nobody wanted details. They decided 8 years ago that my AI software company was a waste of time. They'd never updated that opinion. In 6 days, CNN Business would announce Vertex AI's initial public offering. $2.3 billion valuation. My personal stake, 29.4%. Forbes would estimate my net worth at $680 million. I smiled and finished my water. 6 more days. I dropped out of Yale after 2 years. That's when my family stopped believing in me. I was studying economics, my father's choice. He'd gone to Yale. His father had gone to Yale. I was supposed to continue the tradition. Get my degree. Work at a prestigious firm. Marry well. Make them proud. But I hated it. What I actually loved was artificial intelligence. Machine learning. Natural language processing. The potential of AI to transform how humans interact with technology. So I dropped out and moved to San Francisco. My parents were horrified. "You're throwing away your future," Dad said. "I'm building my future," I countered. "Doing what?" "Playing with computers in some startup that'll fail in 6 months. Building AI software. That's not a real industry." "It will be." Mom cried. "What am I supposed to tell people? My son dropped out of Yale too." "What?" "Become a programmer." "Tell them I'm starting a company." "This is humiliating." I moved to San Francisco with $8,000 in savings and a vision. Vertex AI started in a shared apartment with 3 roommates. I worked on the couch. Learned advanced machine learning. Built the first version of our natural language processing engine. The idea was simple: AI that could understand context, nuance, and intent in human communication. Not just keywords. Actual understanding. Year 1 was brutal. I lived on ramen. Worked 18-hour days. Pitched to anyone who'd listen. My family's reaction at Thanksgiving that year: "Still doing the computer thing." Year 2, I landed my first major client. A customer service platform that paid $120,000 annually to integrate our AI. I hired my first 2 employees. At Christmas, "Are you making enough to live on?" "Yes." "But is it sustainable?" "Yes." "You should have stayed at Yale." Year 3, 8 clients. $1.4 million in revenue. 12 employees. I mentioned it at Easter. Vertex is doing really well. We hit 7 figures in revenue. Dad barely looked up from his ham. "That's nice. Tom just got promoted to senior analyst. He's making $180,000 a year now." Everyone congratulated Tom. Nobody asked about my company. Year 4, 23 clients. $6.8 million in revenue. 41 employees. We raised Series A $12 million from a top Silicon Valley VC firm. TechCrunch wrote about us, Vertex AI, the natural language processing engine enterprise clients actually understand. I sent the article to the family group chat. Emily responded, "That's nice. Tom and I are buying a house." Everyone congratulated them on the house. Year 5, 67 clients including Fortune 500 companies. $24 million in revenue. 138 employees. We raised Series B $45 million. Valuation, $180 million. At Thanksgiving, Uncle Richard asked what I was doing. Still running Vertex AI. We just closed a major funding round. How much? He asked. $4 to $5 million. He laughed. Monopoly money. Valuations aren't real until someone actually buys the company. Dad agreed. He's right. Until you have an exit, it's all theoretical. Year 6, 112 clients. $68 million in revenue. 273 employees. We were approached about going public. Investment banks. Underwriters. Everyone wanted in. Our CFO, Jennifer Martinez, brought me the preliminary numbers. "Alex, if we IPO at current projections, we're looking at a $2 to $3 billion valuation." That seems high. It's not. Our growth trajectory is exceptional. AI is hot. Investors are desperate for the next big thing. We're it. What's the timeline? 12 to 18 months. We need another year of growth. Lock in more enterprise contracts. Show consistent revenue expansion. Let's do it. Year 7, 189 clients. $127 million in revenue. 420 employees. We raised Series C $98 million. Post-money valuation, $650 million. Forbes published a profile, the AI company you've never heard of that's changing enterprise communication. I texted it to the family chat. No response for 3 hours. Then Mom, "That's wonderful, dear. Did you see Emily's photos from their anniversary trip to Paris?" Year 8, this year, everything accelerated. 261 enterprise clients. $203 million in revenue. 612 employees. We filed for IPO in February. Confidentially. Only my board and executive team knew. The target valuation, $2.30 billion. My stake, 29.4% of the company. I'd been careful about dilution. Smart about maintaining control. If the IPO succeeded at target price, my shares would be worth $676 million. Forbes estimated it at $680 million, accounting for additional grants. The IPO was scheduled for April 15, 6 days after Easter. At Easter dinner, nobody asked about Vertex. Nobody asked about revenue. Nobody asked about anything. They asked Tom about his IBM promotion. They asked Emily about redecorating their house. They asked my cousin Sarah about her wedding plans. When it was my turn, Mom laughed about my little online thing, and asked when I'd get a real career. I could have told them. Could have said, in 6 days, my company is going public for $2.3 billion. But I didn't. Because I'd learned something over 8 years. People who dismiss you without evidence aren't worth convincing. They'd find out the same way the rest of the world would find out. From CNN, the IPO process was intense. 3 months of roadshows. Meeting with institutional investors. Pitching our story. Explaining our technology. Justifying our valuation. Your AI is genuinely impressive, one Morgan Stanley analyst said. The accuracy rate on contextual understanding is 30% higher than competitors. That's remarkable. We've invested heavily in our training models, I explained. Quality over speed. It shows. We're recommending strong buy to all our clients. The underwriters were Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. Both predicted the IPO would be oversubscribed. Demand would exceed supply. You could price this higher, our lead banker suggested. Maybe $2.5 billion. Let's stick with $2.3 billion, I said. I want room for growth on day one. Conservative. I like it. The SEC filing went public on April 1st, S1 document. All our financials, revenue, growth metrics, risk factors. The tech media went wild. TechCrunch, Vertex AI files for IPO, $203 million revenue, 97% YOY growth rate. Bloomberg, AI company you've never heard of could be 2024's biggest tech IPO. Forbes, Vertex AI founder could join billionaire ranks if IPO succeeds. That Forbes article included the net worth estimate. $680 million based on my 29.4% stake. My phone exploded with messages from Stanford classmates, industry contacts, investors I'd met over the years. But nothing from my family. They didn't read tech news. They didn't follow IPO announcements. They lived in their Connecticut bubble where real success meant IBM promotions and anniversary trips to Paris. I considered telling them. Sending the S1 filing to the family chat. But I didn't. Let them find out from CNN. The week before IPO, my executive team gathered for final preparations. Jennifer, my CFO, pulled up the IPO calendar. Trading starts April 15th, opening bell at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. CNN is covering it, my CMO, David Park, added. They're doing a segment on tech IPOs. We're the lead story. CNBC too, Jennifer said. And Bloomberg. This is going to be everywhere. My CTO, Sarah Kim, looked at me carefully. Your family still doesn't know? Nope. They're going to lose their minds. Probably. David laughed. Your mom called your company your little online thing at Easter. In 6 days, she's going to watch CNN announce it's worth $2.3 billion. The irony is not lost on me. Are you nervous? Sarah asked. About the IPO? No. The numbers are solid. About my family's reaction? Also no. They owned this. The night before IPO, I barely slept. Not from stress. The business side was handled. Our underwriters were confident. Institutional investors were committed. I was awake from anticipation. 8 years of dismissal. 8 years of when are you getting a real career? 8 years of being treated like the family disappointment. Tomorrow, all of that would change. At 6 a.m. Pacific, I got a text from Jennifer. Goldman says we're 4x oversubscribed. This is going to be huge. At 6:30 a.m., I turned on CNN. They were covering market news. Talking about interest rates. Federal Reserve policy. At 8:45 a.m. Eastern, the anchor said, coming up after the break, a Silicon Valley AI company you've never heard of is about to make its founder very, very wealthy. We'll have that story next. I texted David, CNN teaser just aired. David, I'm recording everything. At 8:47 a.m., my phone started buzzing. My college roommate, dude. Scene just mentioned Vertex. My startup advisor, congratulations. Today's the day. My former professor from Stanford, so proud of you, Alex. You're going to kill it today. At 8:52 a.m. Eastern, 5:52 a.m. Pacific, CNN went to the story. The anchor's voice filled my apartment. One of today's most anticipated IPOs is Vertex AI, a San Francisco-based artificial intelligence company that's been quietly building enterprise solutions for 8 years. The company filed to go public at a $2.3 billion valuation. Founder and CEO Alex Chen, who dropped out of Yale to start the company, will own approximately 29.4% of the company after the offering. That stake is worth an estimated $680 million, according to Forbes. They showed my photo. Professional headshot from our website. Chen started Vertex AI in a San Francisco apartment with less than $10,000. Today, the company serves over 260 enterprise clients, generates over $200 million in annual revenue, and employs more than 600 people. I sat on my couch, watching my story unfold on national television. And I waited for my phone to explode. The first call came at 8:59 a.m. Eastern. 5:59 a.m. Pacific. Emily. I let it ring. She called again immediately. I ignored it. At 9:03 a.m., the family group chat started buzzing. Emily, is anyone else watching CNN right now? Uncle Richard, what's on CNN? Emily, Alex. Alex is on CNN. Mom, what are you talking about? Emily, turn on CNN. Business section. Now. I watched the messages roll in. Dad, I don't understand. What's happening? Emily, his company is going public. For $2.3 billion. Uncle Richard, that can't be right, Emily. It's on CNN. They're talking about him right now. They said his net worth is $680 million. The chat went silent for exactly 47 seconds. Then it exploded. Mom, Alex, call me right now. Dad, what is going on? Aunt Susan, I'm watching CNN. That's really him. Cousin Mike, holy shit, Alex is rich. Uncle Richard, this has to be a mistake. Emily, it's not a mistake. His photo is on the screen. They are showing his company's revenue. $203 million. This is real. Mom, Alex, please call me. I set my phone down and made coffee. At 9:15 a.m., Tom, my brother-in-law, called. I answered. Hey, Tom. Alex, what the hell is happening? Emily is freaking out. She says you're on CNN. I am on CNN. They said your company is worth $2.3 billion. That's the IPO valuation, yes. And you're worth $680 million. If the stock performs well, yes. Silence on his end. Tom. Why didn't you tell anyone? I tried to. Multiple times. Nobody listened. But at Thanksgiving 3 years ago, I mentioned we'd hit 7 figures in revenue. Your father-in-law said it was monopoly money. At Easter this year, 6 days ago, your mother-in-law laughed about my little online thing and asked when I'd get a real career. So I stopped trying. Jesus Christ. How's Emily? She's crying. Keeps saying she had no idea. Nobody did. That was the point. Your mom has called you 17 times. I know. Are you going to call her back? Eventually. Not right now. At 9:30 a.m. Eastern, Vertex AI began trading on the Nasdaq. Ticker symbol, VRTX. Opening price, $42 per share. 23% above our IPO price of $34. The stock climbed immediately. $44. $47. $51. By 10 a.m., it had settled at $48 per share. My stake was now worth $743 million. Jennifer texted, "We're a massive success. Congrats, boss." At 10:15 a.m., Mom called again. This time I answered. Alex, her voice was barely a whisper. "Hi, Mom. Is it true? What they're saying on CNN?" "Yes. Your company is worth billions. $2.3 billion, yes. And you're worth..." She couldn't finish the sentence. "About $743 million as of 10 minutes ago. The stock is performing well." I heard her breathing. Shaky. Shocked. "Why didn't you tell us?" she finally asked. "I did tell you. You called it my little online thing. Remember? 6 days ago. At Easter dinner. You laughed and asked when I'd get a real career. I didn't know. You didn't ask. There's a difference. We need to talk about this. We are talking about it. I mean in person. Can you come home? I'm in San Francisco, Mom. I have an IPO to manage. I'll call you later." I hung up. The family chat had 412 messages. I muted it and went to the office. The office was celebration chaos. 612 employees. All of them now holding equity in a public company. Many of them now millionaires themselves. The lobby had champagne. Balloons. A live feed of VRTX stock price. $49 per share. Up 44% from IPO price. My team mobbed me when I walked in. "You did it." Sarah shouted. "We did it," I corrected. Jennifer pulled me aside. "Alex, we need to discuss media strategy. You have 73 interview requests. CNBC. Bloomberg. Wall Street Journal. Forbes wants an updated profile. TechCrunch wants an exclusive about your journey. Schedule CNBC and Bloomberg. Decline the rest for now. Your family is trying to reach me," she said carefully. "Your mother called the main office line. Twice." "What did she say?" "That she's your mother and she needs to speak to you urgently." Did you tell her I was busy? I told her you were managing the IPO and would call when available. Perfect response. David appeared. Alex, CNN wants a live interview. Today at 4 p.m. Eastern. Will you do it? What's the focus? Your journey. Dropout to billionaire. They love that narrative. I'm not a billionaire yet. Let's wait for the stock to stabilize. You're splitting hairs. At $49 per share, you're worth $743 million. That's close enough for CNN. Fine. Schedule it. The rest of the morning was a blur. Stock price updates. Employee celebrations. Executive meetings about our public company responsibilities. At noon, I finally looked at my phone. 89 missed calls. 372 text messages. Mom had called 43 times. Emily 31 times. Dad 27 times. I scrolled through the texts. Mom, please call me. I'm so sorry. Emily, I can't believe this. Why didn't you tell us? Dad, we need to discuss this as a family. Uncle Richard, I apologize for what I said about monopoly money. I was wrong. Tom, Emily is devastated. Please call her. Aunt Susan, so proud of you. Always knew you'd do something special. I stared at that last one. Aunt Susan, who'd never asked a single question about Vertex in 8 years, was suddenly proud of me. I replied only to Tom, tell Emily I'll call her when I'm ready. Not before. At 3 p.m., I did the CNBC interview. Live. Professional. I talked about the technology, the market opportunity, our growth trajectory. The anchor asked, your family reportedly didn't know about the scope of your success. Is that true? My family knew I ran an AI company. They chose not to ask questions about it. That must be difficult. It was clarifying. It showed me who was interested in my actual work versus who just wanted to judge my choices. That quote went viral within hours. At 4 p.m., I did the CNN interview. Same questions. Same calm answers. By 5 p.m., I was trending on Twitter. And my family was still calling. I flew to Connecticut 3 days later. Not because I wanted to. Because my publicist said the estranged from wealthy family narrative was starting to overshadow the IPO success story. Meet with them, she advised. Let them apologize. Move on. Don't let this become the story. It already is the story. Then change it. Be the bigger person. Show grace. I booked a flight. Mom picked me up from the airport. She looked smaller somehow. Tired. Thank you for coming, she said quietly. I can only stay 2 days. That's enough. We drove to the house in silence. The entire family was there. Dad, Emily and Tom, Uncle Richard and Aunt Susan, Cousin Mike and Sarah. Everyone who'd been at Easter dinner. Everyone who'd dismissed me. They were gathered in the living room like an intervention was about to happen. I sat in the armchair Dad usually occupied. Nobody challenged me. So, I said, you wanted to talk. Mom spoke first. Alex, we owe you an enormous apology. Okay. We didn't understand what you were building. We thought. You thought I was wasting my life. I know. You told me repeatedly. Dad leaned forward. We were wrong. Clearly. Your success is extraordinary. Thank you. Why didn't you tell us? Emily asked. You knew the IPO was coming. You could have warned us. Warned you about what? About this. About being blindsided on CNN. I mentioned the company constantly. At every family dinner for 8 years. Nobody ever asked follow-up questions. You never said it was this big, Uncle Richard said. Yes, I did. 3 years ago at Thanksgiving, I told you we'd raised $45 million in Series B funding at a $180 million valuation. You called it monopoly money and said valuations weren't real. His face reddened. I didn't understand. You didn't try to understand. There's a difference. Silence. At Easter, literally 9 days ago, Mom laughed about my little online thing and asked when I'd get a real career. I had already filed for IPO. My S1 was public. Anyone could have read it. But none of you did because none of you cared enough to look. That's not fair, Mom said. We cared about you. You cared about the version of me you wanted. The Yale graduate. The corporate success. The one who fit your definition of achievement. When I became something different, you stopped paying attention. Tom spoke up. Alex, we're trying to apologize here. Are you? Because it sounds like you're trying to explain why it's not your fault you were wrong. That's not. Tom, 6 days before the IPO, you told everyone about your IBM promotion. Managing 40 people. Everyone congratulated you. Nobody asked me anything. And when they did, Mom called my 8-year-old company my little online thing. What part of that sounds like you cared? Emily was crying. We didn't know. You could have known. The information was available. Every funding round was covered by TechCrunch. Every major milestone was public. My LinkedIn profile has been updated regularly for 8 years. You all have LinkedIn. You just never looked. We're looking now, Dad said. Because I'm rich. Not because you're interested in what I built. That's not true. Dad. Uncle Richard literally just said he apologizes for the monopoly money comment. That's an apology about being wrong, not an apology for dismissing my work. There's a difference. What do you want from us? Mom asked. I stood up and walked to the window. The Connecticut suburbs. Manicured lawns. Expensive cars. The picture of conventional success. I don't want anything from you, I said quietly. I wanted your support 8 years ago. I wanted you to ask questions. To show interest. To believe in me even when it looked risky. But you didn't. And I built Vertex anyway. We're proud of you now, Aunt Susan said. Are you proud of me? Or are you proud of the $680 million? Because those are different things. Nobody answered. Here's what I think, I continued. I think you're embarrassed. Your friends saw me on CNN. Your colleagues read about the IPO. Everyone is asking why you didn't know your son built a billion-dollar company. And you don't have a good answer. Alex, Mom started. This isn't about punishing you. It's about clarity. For 8 years, you treated my company like a cute hobby. You never asked for metrics. Never asked about clients. Never asked about revenue or growth or anything substantive. You just assumed I was failing and waited for me to give up. We were worried. No. You were disappointed. There's a difference. Worried parents ask questions. Disappointed parents make assumptions. Dad stood. This is getting us nowhere. You're angry. We understand. But we're family. Family moves forward. Family supports each other, I countered. Family shows up. Family asks real questions. You did none of those things. So what happens now? He asked. Now I go back to San Francisco and run my company. You all figure out how to explain to your friends and neighbors why you had no idea. And we see if there's a relationship worth rebuilding. Do you want that? Mom asked. A relationship with us? I don't know yet. I need to see if you're interested in who I actually am or just managing your embarrassment about being wrong. Emily stood up. I want to know you. The real you. Not the version we assumed. Then ask questions. Real questions. About the technology. About the challenges. About what we're building. Not just how much is it worth. Okay, she said quietly. I will. That's a start. I looked at the rest of them. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. I'll see you all at brunch tomorrow. If anyone wants to ask real questions about Vertex, I'll answer them. If you want to talk about my net worth or tell me what you would have done differently, don't come. I walked out. Behind me, I heard Uncle Richard say, his being unreasonable. And I heard Emily respond, no. His being honest. We're the ones who were unreasonable for 8 years. I smiled slightly. Maybe there was hope for her. Brunch the next morning was at a restaurant in downtown Hartford. I arrived at 10 a.m. Half expected nobody to show up. Emily was already there. Just her. No Tom. Where's everyone else? I asked. I told them not to come. I wanted to talk to you alone. We ordered coffee. Sat in silence for a moment. I've been reading about Vertex, she said. For the past 3 days. Every article I could find. TechCrunch, Forbes, Bloomberg. All of it. And your natural language processing technology is remarkable. The way you trained the AI on contextual understanding instead of just keywords, it's genuinely innovative. I looked at her carefully. You understood that? I looked up the terms I didn't know. Spent 6 hours reading about NLP and machine learning. I'm not an expert, but I understand the basics now. Why? Because you were right. I never asked questions. I just assumed. And I'm ashamed of that. This was different. Not just an apology. Actual effort. What else did you read? I asked. That you started with $8,000. That you worked 18-hour days for 3 years before taking a real salary. That you turned down acquisition offers worth hundreds of millions because you believed in the long-term vision. That your employees are fiercely loyal because you maintained equity for them through every funding round. Someone's been thorough. I'm your sister. I should have been thorough 8 years ago. Our food arrived. We ate in comfortable silence. Mom is devastated, Emily said eventually. She keeps watching the CNN interview on repeat. The part where you said the family chose not to ask questions. That's accurate. She knows. Dad knows. They're just not ready to admit it yet. Will they ever be? I don't know. Uncle Richard is already telling people he always knew you'd be successful. It's gross. I laughed despite myself. Of course he is. Tom feels terrible too. He's been apologizing to me for days. Said he should have asked more about your work. Tom was always polite. He just followed everyone else's lead. Can I ask you something? Emily said. Sure. When we were growing up, were we always like this? Dismissive. I thought about it. Not always. When we were kids, you used to ask about my science projects. You were genuinely interested. But somewhere along the way, college maybe, everyone became obsessed with conventional success. Prestigious schools. Corporate jobs. Traditional markers. And I became the weird one who didn't fit. I'm sorry. I know you are. Is there a way forward? Maybe. If you keep asking questions. If you show genuine interest. If you treat Vertex like something more than my net worth. I can do that. Then we'll figure it out. She smiled. Thank you for giving me a chance. You're the only one who showed up. That means something. After brunch, I texted Mom. Emily and I had a good talk. When you're ready to ask real questions, call me. She didn't respond for 6 hours. Then, I will. I promise I will. 6 months after the IPO, Vertex AI crossed $5 billion in market cap. My stake was worth $1.47 billion. Forbes updated their estimate. Officially a billionaire. The media loved it. Yale dropout becomes billionaire at 33. My family's reactions were complicated. Mom and I talked once a week. She asked real questions now. About product development. About competition. About challenges in scaling. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. Dad took longer. 4 months before he called. I've been reading about AI, he said. Trying to understand what you built. And it's remarkable. I should have seen it sooner. Yes. You should have. Can we move forward? We can try. Emily became one of my closest confidants. She visited San Francisco quarterly. Met my team. Understood the business. Asked intelligent questions. I'm proud of you, she said during one visit. Not because of the money. Because you built something meaningful and you never gave up. Thank you. That actually means something. Tom and I were cordial. Not close, but respectful. Uncle Richard I avoided. He was still telling people he'd always believed in me. It was insufferable. The most unexpected development was my cousin Sarah. She reached out 6 months post-IPO. I'm thinking about starting a company. Can I talk to you about it? We had coffee. She explained her idea, sustainable fashion using AI to optimize supply chains. That's actually brilliant, I said. Have you talked to your parents about it? They think I'm crazy. Said I should get a stable job first. I smiled. Sound familiar? That's why I'm talking to you. I invested $500,000 in her company. Seed round. Gave her advice. Introduced her to other founders. Why are you helping me? She asked. Because nobody helped me. And that made everything harder than it needed to be. 1 year after the IPO, Yale invited me to speak at their entrepreneurship center. The same university I'd dropped out of. What would you tell yourself if you could go back to the moment you left? A student asked. I thought carefully. I'd tell myself that believing in your vision matters more than other people believing in you. I'd tell myself that success built without support is still success. And I'd tell myself that the people who dismiss you today will claim they supported you all along tomorrow, and it's okay to remind them they didn't. The auditorium erupted in applause. After the talk, the dean approached me. Would like to award you an honorary degree. I smiled. I appreciate the offer, but I'm good. I built everything I have without Yale's credential. Don't need it now. His face fell. I walked out of that building feeling lighter than I'd felt in years. Because success isn't about validation from people who doubted you. It's about building something so undeniable they can't look away. Even if it takes them 8 years to finally look.